Hi guys, and welcome to Piano and Keyboard Artist, where we discuss the artists related to pianos, keyboards and synthesizers. As you can see, I'm having a bit of a dress down day today. It is Sunday, but this channel is all about you and the content. It's not about me and fashion. So let's jump right into it. I want to talk to you today about gurus, pioneers and influencers, and what I mean by that in terms of electronic music. Now, the terms I'm going to give you now are not official terms. These are just ways I have of classifying them for this video and for the sake of conversation and for the sake of future videos, because I'm busy setting something up here which will become apparent over the next few months. Now, when I talk about gurus, what I'm talking about are gurus, or sometimes I use the word godfather. So I will use the word guru or godfather interchangeably. And to me, a guru or a godfather are artists like Jean-Michel Jarre, Kraftwerk, and Vangelis. Now, what I mean by a guru or a godfather, these are the artists that really sort of spawned electronic music the way we knew it, or the way we know it today. They're the ones that are like really at the top of the pyramid, or at the bottom of the foundation, however you want to see it. The next level I would refer to as pioneers. And what I mean by a pioneer is someone like Vince Clarke, who kind of took who got their inspiration from the gurus, and then took that art form and changed it and presented it in a way that went on to influence the influencers. First time I sort of heard Erasure or Yazoo, I always thought, to me, it sounded like Kraftwerk with pop music over the top, as I said many years ago. So it's almost like Vince Clarke heard the we are the robots, all those kinds of synthesized quirky sounds, and he took that, he presented it in such a way that was more sort of it had more mass appeal. So, by joining up with Alison Moyet and then the Assembly and then Erasure, Vince Clarke took the Kraftwerk type sound, although he's got his own style, of course. But it was really taking the influence from Kraftwerk and that sort of that electronic sound, and then marrying it with great pop songs. And that is really where Vince Clarke fits into the pioneer bracket, which I'm putting him into. Another example of a pioneer to me would be Gary Numan. Now, people have sometimes loosely thrown the term around. I've heard people saying Gary Numan is the godfather of electronic music. As much as I love Gary Numan, I'm here to tell you that I strongly disagree that Gary Numan is the godfather of electronic music. And I think he himself would probably disagree with that as well. Gary Numan, to me, is if anything, he's a pioneer of, I would say, industrial hybrid type sound music. But then again, I don't want to talk myself into a circle now, because if we look at the way Gary Numan's started his music, and now he's virtually, as someone said on my video recently, they're calling him 9-inch Newman because he's so much like 9 Inch Nails. But anyway, what I'm trying to illustrate is, if you look at Gary Numan, he was never a fully electronic act. He was always if we look at Friends Electric and Cars, it was a band. He would have a band, and synthesizers were added to the mix. So, songs like Cars, Friends Electric, they're not electronic songs. They're quirky songs, but they are basically, they include conventional instruments, drums, guitars, and with the addition of a synthesizer. So when people say Gary Numan is the godfather of electronic music, no, he's not. As much as I love him, he's definitely not the godfather of electronic music. And I'd like to hear your opinions on that too. But anyway, so Gary Numan to me is a pioneer. So once again, what I mean by pioneers, as in Vince Clarke or Gary Numan, this was the level where they looked up to the gurus, got the inspiration from the gurus, and then took that inspiration and formed their own art form or way of doing things. Classic example, Depeche Mode to me are also pioneers, you know, taking the electronic sound and, you know, they obviously didn't invent electronic sound, but they did marry it with songs and present it to the world in a way that had not been heard before. And then we come to the next level after the pioneers, which I call the influencers. Now, the influencers to me are acts such as, I would say, just randomly pulling out the air, Alphaville. Alphaville are not gurus and they're not pioneers, but they are influencers. They've basically got their inspiration from the pioneers and they've become influencers. And the reason they are influencers is because they have gone to influence the next tier or the next level of artists, which will be the fourth level. We're not going to get into that at the moment. This is incredibly geeky. This should probably be on Geek Talk. But I think you guys understand what I'm trying to say here is another example of a artist, which I would classify as influencers, and this is a good example, would be the Human League. Now, not the early Human League. The early Human League I would classify as pioneers because they really were had a sort of like a pioneering influence on electronic music. But Human League Mark II, as I call it, you know, with Phil Oakey and the two girls, I would classify that as influence, as influences, because Phil Oakey joining up with the two girls, and it's well documented, and I saw in a documentary once that the reason I think the early Human League fragmented was obviously because Martin Ware and Phil Oakey had different opinions as to where they wanted to go. I think Martin was really hooked on that sort of innovative, dark sort of sound that they had. I'm at a loss for words at the moment. Whereas Phil Oakey said he quite openly said he just wanted to be a pop star and he wanted to be Donna Summer, as I saw in a documentary. And that is, of course, where Martin Ware and Phil Oakey parted ways, and we got the Human League Part 2, or Mark II, as I call it. So the Human League Mark II would be what I would classify as influences. And of course, because the way Phil Oakey joined up with the two girls and those songs and that style went on to influence hundreds of other artists, and which has, you know, trickled down to today. And while I'm on this subject, guys, a lot of you that are, you know, just come to this channel, a lot of you think this is an 80s channel. And looking back at my videos that I've done so far, I mean, the channel's just over a year old now, you'd be forgiven for thinking that. But the reason I am focusing so much on these 80s artists is because we are going to move on into sort of like 90s and eventually into dance music. But I am particularly focusing at the moment on the pioneers, you know, the people that started all. That is why we are always talking about the people we talk about now, the people from the late 70s, the early 80s, because this is where it all started. And no matter how far we go in the future of electronic music, we always have to give respect to these guys. These are the guys who started, and that is why I focus so much on them at the moment. And that's just to make it clear that this isn't exclusively an 80s channel. We are obviously going to be moving on through to the 90s and, you know, up until present days. And check out my my Rising Star series, where I introduce you to, you know, great up-and-coming artists as well. But anyway, coming back to the gurus, pioneers, and influencers, it is an interesting subject because obviously if we look at the pyramid, you've got the gurus at the top, you've got the pioneers in the middle, and you've got the influencers at the bottom. And of course, there are very few gurus. And as I say, gurus or godfathers that come to my mind would be, as I say, Jean-Michel Jarre, Vangelis, and Kraftwerk. It is very difficult these days to listen to electronic music and not hear elements of the godfathers and the gurus in it, or the pioneers. So it's quite funny, whenever people hear music, it's probably just the way human beings think. We put things into boxes and we draw associations. So you go, oh, it sounds like this, it sounds like this. But being an electronic artist, it's very difficult not to sound like, but it's difficult not to have elements of influence, and, you know, from the pioneers and the and the gurus and the godfathers. And just while I'm on that, I just want to pull this up quickly. This was sent to me by a fellow group member and a friend of mine, Mark Wibro. Mark, hello to you, brother. Thank you very much for sending me this. Mark sent me this in the post the other day, and this is very, very fascinating. Now, I've seen this face before. This is Richman Wunderbar. And as I say, I've seen the face before, but I'd never, pardon my ignorance, I'd never really heard of him. But the first thing I saw when I looked at this photo, I thought Gary Newman Berserker, the Gary Newman Berserker, with the blue hair and the blue eyeliner and the sort of like cold white makeup on the face. Was Gary Newman influenced by this? I'm sure he was, or is it just one hell of a coincidence? But anyway, what I'm just trying to illustrate here is this is a fascinating artist. Once again, Mark, thank you very much for sending me this. He sent it to me, and the very next morning I put it on the turntable, and I was absolutely blown away. And I thought to myself, why have I not heard of this? And Richman Wunderbar, the story is very sad. I believe he was stabbed and he died 2 days before this album was released. I don't know the whole history of Richman Wunderbar, but I am fascinated by what I've heard, and I will certainly be studying this remarkable artist, and I would like to do a video on him at some point. But listening to his style, and when did this come out? Was this late 70s? Forgive me, I haven't done all the research. But this to me sounds like really sort of pioneering kind of stuff. So yeah, fascinating artist, and thank you for sending me this, Mark. But anyway, guys, so I want you to get involved with this video, and as I say, the reasons for this video will become apparent later on. I would like you to leave in the comments below as many examples as you like, or as few as you like, and let me know what you would classify as a guru, what you would classify as a pioneer, and what you would classify as an influencer. And once again, gurus are the artists that kind of started it all. Pioneers are the next level down, which kind of took their inspiration from the gurus and then went on to influence the influencers. And the influencers, as I say, acts like, as I say, Alphaville. I'm thinking, Human League Mark II, and there are loads. But I would like to hear your opinions on that. And from the information that we get from these videos and this discussion, it will become apparent what I'm up to at a later stage. Guys, where are we at the moment? I'm in the middle of my Depeche Mode album review series. We're just about to start with Music for the Masses. As I say, they are becoming a lot more intense. We are going to be interviewing Mr. Dave Bascombe on the 2nd of March. We're going to be heading down to interview him. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and share the videos with any devotees or Depeche Mode fans that you think would be interested in this kind of content. If you would forgive the self-promotion, I'm just about to release a single. My artist name, as you guys know, is Vaughn, and I have not released a solo Vaughn single in almost 5 years. So that track, we've just finished mixing it with my mix engineer, Sean Kennedy, and I'm loving the way it's sounding. The track's called My Angel. It's being mastered at the moment, and it'll be out very soon. In fact, I'll give you a little teaser. And there you have it, the brand new Vaughn single out very, very soon. Guys, it's up to you now. Once again, please leave your comments below. Give me a few examples, as many as you wish, and let me know what you would classify as gurus, pioneers, and influencers, and give a few examples. Guys, always a blast. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take it easy.